Thank you so much, Mr. Dion. It's always a pleasure to have you come to our committee. You don't come often enough, I think. And I want to congratulate you. I think your reports are always extremely diligent. I don't always agree with them, but I find them very fascinating and I reflect on them. I want to ask you about the Morneau report because it really, to me, shows a staggering level of insider access and answered many of the questions we were trying to get figured out at our committee. In sworn testimony to the committee, the Kielburger brothers stated that one of the reasons they opted not to register to lobby was because they said, quote, "It was unusual for us to be spending any significant time with the federal government." And yet, in your report, you state that Mr. Morneau's office, quote, "had an unusually high degree of involvement in files relating to we, that there were frequent communications between members of Mr. Morneau's ministerial staff and we representatives, that Mr. Morneau gave we preferential treatment by permitting his ministerial staff to disproportionately assist it when it sought federal funding." Then you say, "I believe this unfettered access to the office of the finance minister was based on the identity of we's representative, Mr. Craig Kielburger." So would you say that unprecedented, to me, access to the finance minister's office created the conflict of interest for Mr. Morneau and certainly helped exacerbate the scandal that was the we scandal?
That's why we determined that, in my view, they were friends within the meaning of the Act. And that's why we found Mr. Morneau in contravention of a couple of sections of the Act, because Craig Kielburger and Mr. Morneau were friends, in my view. The word friend is not defined in the Act. It's up to me in each and every situation on a case-by-case basis to analyze the indicia of the relationship. And in that instance, it was the determination I made after some reflection, but it was relatively easy to determine that.
Right.
That they were friends.
Yeah, I guess to me, it's beyond the area of question of them being personal friends and going to brunch together, but that I find it shocking that their relationship, the way they treated staff in the finance minister's office to say, "Hey, girl," that sense of that they were that welcome in there to say, "Hey, girl," to federal staff, and that when Parliamentary Secretary Jennifer O'Connell asked why she was being asked to attend a meeting with Craig Kielburger, she was told, "This is important to Bill, and Craig is not often in town. It is purely listening mode to keep him happy." So who are they trying to keep happy, Craig Kielburger or Bill Morneau?
I don't know. We can each read this and make our own determination. But it was one of the documents that we reviewed.
Okay. Because
to keep him happy, my interpretation is as good as yours. Whether they're talking about Craig Kielburger or Bill Morneau, I don't know who is him.
But highly unusual for the finance minister's office in a G7 country that they're saying they want to keep Craig Kielburger happy, if that's the case. I want to also
that's what I thought. That's why I determined them to be friends.
I'm really pleased you put that in there because it stands out that there's something wasn't right there. The Kielburgers stated under oath at the Finance Committee that they said, "Any allegation and false claim that we would have financially benefited as individuals is simply false, and it is incredibly insulting that you, the committee, will not accept our answer on this." And that you write, "There is no doubt Mr. Kielburger's interests would have been furthered had we administered the CSSG. We would have acquired a significant financial interest, and the Kielburgers' involvement is so prevalent that the organization's interests are also those of its co-founders." And you have stated on a number of occasions in your article, in your report, that Mr. Morneau was inappropriately furthering the private interests of Craig Kielburger. Can you explain that?
Yeah, we weigh every word we put in those reports, very carefully. And so you read some excerpts, and I recall they're pretty powerful excerpts, and we did weigh them very carefully before writing them, and we have the evidence to support that. So receiving $43 million to manage a program, of course, will unavoidably improve one's situation vis-a-vis the ability to retain staff, for example, the ability to borrow money, and so on and so forth. So that's why we came to that conclusion.
Okay, because I think, and again, there were many things that just seem to just jump right off the page. And one of the things that I found most shocking was this allegation that ministerial resources, again, the resources of a finance minister of a G7 country, were used to hustle gigs for the Kielburgers. You say, quote, evidence shows that Mr. Morneau and his staff assisted WE by reviewing its funding proposals, introducing WE representatives to ministerial staff and relevant departments, as well as intervening on their behalf at federal, provincial, and municipal levels. I mean, if the finance minister of the country is calling down into some town council to get a gig for Craig Kielburger, would you not agree that that is highly, highly inappropriate behavior?
Of course, I agree, because that was our finding. It was highly unusual, and it's also inappropriate in my view.
And inappropriate. Thank you very much.